I used to believe betrayal came from enemies, not from the person who knew my childhood fears, my family secrets, and the exact tone of my silence. I believed closeness was protection, that intimacy created a shield nothing could pass through. I thought shared memories acted like locks on the door of loyalty. That belief was comforting. It helped me sleep at night. It helped me trust without hesitation, never imagining that familiarity itself could become the weapon. Trust felt like armor back then. Heavy, strong, reassuring. When someone knows your story from the beginning, when they've seen you at your weakest, you assume they would never be the source of your pain. Why would they? It collapsed from within, quietly and completely. Betrayal doesn't always arrive loudly. It doesn't always announce itself with shouting or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it slips in gently, disguised as concern, humor, or honesty. It smiles at you while slowly dismantling everything you believed was safe. That's what makes it so devastating. You don't see it coming because it looks like love. There was no sudden goodbye, no clean ending, no dramatic exit. It's about losing a version of yourself you thought was permanent. The version that trusted easily. The version that felt emotionally secure. The version that didn't second-guess every interaction. When betrayal comes from someone close, it doesn't just take the relationship. It takes pieces of who you used to be. What hurts most isn't always what they did. It's not just the lie, the secret, or the disloyal choice. It's how long it takes to understand why it shattered you so deeply. You replay conversations in your head, searching for the exact moment things changed. You ask yourself why this wound feels different from others. And slowly, you realize it's because the foundation itself was damaged. Long after the confrontation ends, long after the explanations and half-apologies fade, the impact lingers. You're alone with your thoughts, replaying moments that once felt safe. You wonder how something so familiar became so painful. Nights become longer, silence becomes heavier, and even when life moves forward, a part of you remains stuck, still trying to make sense of what happened. Sometimes the apologies never come, or they come wrapped in excuses, justifications, or blame disguised as honesty. And even if they do come, they don't always heal anything. It doesn't restore the version of trust that existed before. You start to realize that closure isn't something another person can give you. It's something you have to build yourself. You begin questioning your judgment. You ask yourself if you were naive, careless, or too forgiving. The self-doubt creeps in slowly but persistently. If you were wrong about them, what else have you been wrong about? Who else are you misreading? Betrayal doesn't just break trust in others. It shakes trust in yourself. Your memories start to feel unreliable. Moments that once brought comfort now feel tainted. You replay shared laughter and deep conversations, wondering what was real and what was performative. Were they always this way, or did something change? The uncertainty is exhausting. It's painful to realize that even your happiest memories can become sources of confusion and grief. Your worth becomes a quiet question in the background of everything. You wonder if you asked for too much or trusted too deeply. Even when you logically know the betrayal wasn't your fault, emotionally, it's hard not to internalize the damage. The mind understands. The heart struggles. The next day, a single memory pulls you back into grief. Progress doesn't move in a straight line. It circles back, overlaps, and sometimes feels like it disappears entirely. That unpredictability can be terrifying. There are moments when you think you're finally past it, not because you miss the person, but because you miss the safety you felt with them. You miss who you were before the betrayal. That longing isn't weakness. Sometimes the deepest wounds are invisible to everyone except the person carrying them. On the outside, you seem fine, functional, calm, but inside, there's a constant negotiation between protecting yourself and wanting to feel close again. People assume time has healed you because you don't talk about it anymore. You learn quickly that society doesn't always know how to respond to this kind of pain. People expect you to move on quickly. They don't see it as a loss worthy of deep grief. That dismissal can make the healing process lonelier, forcing you to carry emotions you don't feel allowed to express. There's a strange isolation that follows betrayal. You hesitate before sharing again. You measure your words. You analyze reactions. Emotional safety becomes something you negotiate rather than assume. It's not that you don't want connection anymore. You start building emotional walls without realizing it. At first, they feel like protection. Boundaries feel necessary, even empowering. But over time, you notice how hard it is to let people in. You crave closeness but fear vulnerability. The same openness that once felt natural now feels dangerous. The most confusing part is missing someone who hurt you. You miss the laughter, the shared understanding, the feeling of being seen. That contradiction can make you feel ashamed, as if longing means weakness. But it doesn't. It means you're human. There are days when anger takes over. Days when you replay everything you wish you had said. Days when you imagine standing up for yourself in ways you couldn't at the time. Anger becomes a shield, protecting you from sadness. But even anger gets tired. Eventually, it gives way to grief again. Grief after betrayal is complicated because there's no clear ending. The person may still exist in your world, online or in shared spaces. You don't get the finality of goodbye. Instead, you learn how to live with unanswered questions. You learn how to grieve someone who is still alive, but no longer safe. Over time, you begin to recognize how deeply the experience changed you. You become more observant, more cautious, sometimes more empathetic. You notice patterns in behavior that once went unnoticed. This awareness can feel like growth, but it can also feel heavy, like innocence lost too early. There's a moment when you realize healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without reliving the pain. It means accepting that what happened shaped you, but it doesn't have to define you. That realization doesn't come easily. It arrives slowly, through reflection, patience, and self-compassion. You begin to understand that betrayal often says more about the other person than it does about you. Their choices reflect their unresolved struggles, insecurities, and fears. Knowing this doesn't erase the pain, but it softens the self-blame. It creates space for understanding without excusing harm. Learning to trust again feels like learning a new language. You start small. You test consistency instead of promises. You pay attention to actions rather than words. Trust becomes something built slowly, intentionally, and carefully. It's not as effortless as before, but it's more grounded. There's power in realizing you survived something that changed you. You didn't break, even when it felt like you might. You adapted. You learned. You grew in ways you never asked to. That resilience doesn't erase the hurt, but it proves your strength in ways nothing else could. Eventually, you stop asking why it happened and start asking what it taught you. That shift marks a quiet turning point. The pain no longer controls the narrative. It becomes part of the story, not the entire story. And that distinction matters more than you realize. You begin reclaiming parts of yourself that were lost. Your voice grows steadier. Your boundaries become clearer. Your sense of self slowly rebuilds, stronger and more intentional than before. You're not the same person you were before the betrayal, but that doesn't mean you're worse. You're different. There's a bittersweet clarity that comes with healing. You see people more clearly, including yourself. You understand that closeness doesn't guarantee loyalty, and that love doesn't always mean safety. That knowledge is heavy, but it's also honest. It allows you to choose relationships with open eyes. In the end, this story isn't just about pain. It's about awareness. It's about learning how deeply trust shapes us and how profoundly betrayal can alter our inner world. It's about honoring the wound without letting it harden your heart. And it's about finding the courage to heal, even when the scars remain.